The refugee fleet appeared at the edge of human space without warning. Old ships drifted together like wounded animals. Hull plates were burned, engines coughed and failed. Life support systems were barely holding. There were 40,000 souls inside those ships, families, soldiers, elders, children, all fleeing the same war, all carrying the same fear. They had crossed half the galaxy looking for safety, and everywhere they went, they were refused. Some worlds closed their borders, some demanded payment. Others opened fire without a word. The refugees learned to expect rejection. They learned to expect cages. They learned to expect camps. Now they had reached human space, a young species, unpredictable. Rumored to be dangerous, inside the lead refugee ship, Commander Varric watched the human border markers appear on the main screen. His scales were dull with exhaustion. His hands shook as he gripped the console. "Signal them," he said quietly. A weak transmission was sent. "This is a civilian refugee fleet. We request shelter." The crew waited. Silence filled the bridge. Every second felt heavy. Varric remembered the stories. Humans were death-worlders, survivors of endless wars. What would they do with desperate aliens? He expected automated warnings. Or armed escorts, or nothing at all. Instead, a reply came almost instantly. "You are in human space. You are safe." The words did not make sense. Safe was not a word refugees trusted anymore. Around the fleet, human ships began to appear. Sleek, controlled, alert, weapons were visible, but not aimed. Refugee crews tensed, children were pulled close. Medical teams prepared for the worst. Varric swallowed and asked the question he feared. "Where are the camps?" The human officer paused, then replied calmly. "There are no camps." Confusion spread through the refugee fleet. Some thought it was a trick. Others believed translation error. Human ships moved closer. But they did not surround the refugees. They flew alongside them, guiding, protecting on Earth. Emergency councils were already in session. Human leaders watched the damaged ships arrive on their screens. They saw overcrowded decks, malnourished bodies, fear in every movement. This was not an invasion. This was survival. Human doctors spoke first. "They will not last long without help." Military officers nodded. Threat assessments were clear. These ships could barely fight gravity. A single decision was made, and it was made fast. Open the gates. The refugee fleet was guided deeper into human space. Past defense platforms, past cities in orbit, toward Earth. The refugees watched in disbelief. They expected to be hidden. Instead, they were shown everything. Green planets, busy stations, open skies. As the fleet approached Earth orbit, human transports launched, not soldiers, but medical crews. Doctors entered refugee ships with supplies. Food packs were handed out without conditions. Children were checked first. Some refugees cried openly. Others backed away, suspicious. Kindness had not been free for a long time. Commander Varric followed a human officer through a docking corridor. He was ready to hear the rules, the restrictions, the punishment for mistakes. Instead, the human simply said, "We will take care of you." The refugees were transported down to Earth in waves. They expected tents, barracks, cold metal floors. What they found were buildings. Real homes, warm lights, open doors. Families were placed together. No one was separated. No one was locked in. Human volunteers waited with clothes, food, and translators. They smiled, not out of pride, but relief. The galaxy watched from afar. Spies recorded everything. Analysts could not understand it. Why bring 40,000 strangers into your world? Why take such a risk? Human news channels showed the arrivals openly. No secrecy, no fear. A human reporter asked a simple question. "Why are we doing this?" an older human woman answered. "Because someone once helped us." That answer spread across the refugee population. And something changed. For the first time since the war began, the refugees slept without listening for alarms. Commander Varric stood on a balcony that night, looking at Earth's sky. Blue and wide, he had expected chains, he had expected camps. What he found was something far more dangerous, hope far beyond Earth. The war that created the refugees continued to burn, and its masters noticed something strange. The fleet they thought was broken was no longer alone, and humanity had just made a choice, one the galaxy would never forget. The refugees waited for the rules, they waited for fences, they waited for guards with weapons. None of it came. On Earth, the first morning felt unreal. Sunlight passed through open windows, not metal bars. Families woke in real rooms, beds were soft, the air was warm and clean. Many refugees did not sleep at all, they sat awake, expecting the moment kindness would end. Commander Varric walked through the temporary housing zone. He noticed something strange. There were no walls keeping them inside. People moved freely. Human volunteers walked beside refugees, not watching them, helping them. Medical centers were busy. Doctors treated injuries without asking questions. No one asked about rank. No one asked about loyalty. Children were given small toys, simple things, but powerful. Some children forgot how to smile. Humans waited patiently, never forcing it. Galactic observers sent reports in panic. There are no camps. There are no chains. Other empires did not believe it. They assumed deception. Humans must be planning something. But days passed and nothing changed. Food distribution centers stayed open all day. Refugees were allowed to choose what they ate. Not given ration blocks, but real meals. Some refugees refused at first. They thought it was a test. Humans simply waited. Human leaders addressed the public. They did not hide the truth. These people lost everything. We will not take more from them. Across Earth, some humans were afraid. 40,000 strangers was a risk. But the fear did not become hate. Instead, communities volunteered. Homes were opened. Schools prepared extra space. Refugee teachers were invited to help. Engineers were asked to assist in rebuilding projects, not as workers, but as partners. This confused the refugees even more. On the third day, Commander Varric asked a human official directly, "When will the camps be ready?" The official looked surprised. "There will never be camps," he said. Varric felt anger rise, not at the human, but at hope. "Every empire says that at first," he replied. The human shook his head. "We are not an empire." That answer was recorded, shared across the refugee population. Some believed it. Others waited for proof. Proof came quietly. No curfews were announced. No armed patrols appeared at night. No punishment followed mistakes. When a refugee child broke a window by accident, a human laughed and helped fix it. Galactic spies watched in frustration. They could not find the threat. Human security forces stayed distant. Ready but unseen, protection, not control. Refugees slowly began to change. Shoulders relaxed. Voices grew louder. Music returned. Old songs from lost worlds were sung again. Human children listened, learning alien words, laughing at strange sounds. In the Refugee Council meeting, Varric spoke honestly. "These humans are not breaking us," he said. "They are rebuilding us." Some refugees cried. Others argued, trauma does not fade easily. Then the first human memorial was shown to the refugees. A quiet place, names carved into stone. Humans brought the refugees there. Not to shame them, but to show understanding. "We know loss," a human elder said. "We remember." That was when many refugees finally believed. The galaxy reacted badly. Political channels accused humanity of manipulation. Of building a secret army, human leaders responded calmly. We do not build armies from refugees. We build neighbors, far away. The empire that caused the war noticed the reports. They laughed at first. Humans are weak, they said. They waste resources on the broken, but intelligence officers felt uneasy. Refugees were not broken anymore on Earth. The refugees planted small gardens. Green life in human soil, a symbol of staying. Commander Varek stood beside a human child one evening, watching lights rise into the sky. "Why are you doing this?" he finally asked. The child answered simply, "Because you are here." That simple answer spread faster than any message. The camps never came, and with every passing day, the galaxy realized something dangerous was happening. Humanity was turning victims into family. The announcement came quietly. No dramatic speech, no display of power. Just a simple message shared across Earth and beyond. The refugees would not be temporary guests. They would not be hidden. They would not be controlled. They would be given a future. Human leaders spoke in calm voices. We will offer paths to citizenship, work, education, and protection. The galaxy froze. No empire had ever done this. Refugees were tools, labor, or shields. Never equals on Earth. Reaction was mixed. Some humans feared the change, others welcomed it, but the decision held. Refugees were invited to learn human languages. Not forced, invited, human schools opened their doors. Children sat side by side, learning each other's words. Adults were asked what they could do, not what they owed. Engineers found places in shipyards. Doctors entered hospitals. Teachers returned to classrooms. Former soldiers were given a choice. Rest, training, or service. No one was forced to fight. Commander Varek watched his people change. Fear slowly loosened its grip. Pride returned, for many. This was harder than survival. Trust was a risk. Galactic networks exploded with debate. Humans are insane. They are building a future threat. Others watched closely, wondering if this was a new way to rule. Human media answered openly, "If trust fails, we will face it." Refugees were not placed together in one place. They were spread across communities. Integrated, known, names replaced numbers. Stories replaced files. The first refugee-owned business opened quietly. A small food place, alien spices mixed with human recipes. Lines formed, curiosity replaced fear. Then came the moment that shocked everyone. Human defense academies opened limited training slots. Not for soldiers, but for guardians, rescue pilots. Disaster response teams, system defense support. Refugees who chose to join trained alongside humans. Same rules, same standards. The galaxy panicked. They are arming them, humans responded calmly. We are trusting them. Commander Varek was offered a position. Not as a commander, but as an advisor, he accepted. Knowing history was being written, then the warning arrived. The empire that destroyed refugee worlds sent a message, cold, demanding. Return our citizens. They belong to us. The word sent fear through the refugee population. Memories of fire and chains returned. Human leaders met immediately. Military commanders waited, ready. The answer was not delayed. These people are under human protection. They are free, the empire laughed. We will come and take them, across Earth. Alarms did not sound, but preparations began. Human fleets adjusted positions. Refugee volunteers stepped forward, not to fight, but to stand. Commander Varek addressed his people. We were saved, he said. Now we choose who we stand with. No one forced them. No one threatened them, yet thousands volunteered to help defend Earth. Not as refugees, but as citizens in making. The galaxy watched in disbelief. Humanity had made a choice no empire would make. They trusted the broken, and the broken chose loyalty. As hostile fleets began to move toward human space, one truth became clear. This war would not be about territory. It would be about people. The warning arrived too late to be ignored. The empire that had destroyed refugee worlds appeared at the edge of human space. Ships bristling with weapons, fires visible even from orbit. Their intent clear: reclaim what they called theirs. Refugees stared from the observation decks. Fear and memories returning in waves, 40,000 lives had fled. And now the hand that burned their homes reached out again. Human leaders did not hesitate. Earth's fleets moved into formation, not in anger, not in conquest, but in protection. Commander Varric watched as familiar enemies approached. He expected humans to surrender them, to negotiate, to hide behind walls and weapons. Instead, the humans stood firm and spoke one simple sentence to the invading empire: "These are our homes now." The galaxy trembled at the words. No empire had ever been defied so boldly, not by one species, and certainly not by the protectors of the weak. The battle began, not with grand explosions, but with quiet precision. Every ship, human and refugee alike, moved with purpose. Every weapon aimed to defend, not destroy indiscriminately. Refugee pilots took the controls of human ships. Veterans of lost wars now flying alongside their saviors, synchronizing movements with training they never expected to receive. Soldiers who had survived bombardments and betrayals now defended new homes, shielding human cities in orbit, guarding the very children they had once feared would judge them. The enemy fired first, expecting chaos, expecting a weak response. They found coordination, unity, a force that understood loyalty and sacrifice, not just obedience. On Earth, citizens watched from the surface and orbiting stations. Silent but ready, volunteers and scientists prepared emergency systems. Medical teams worked in tandem with defense crews. Every corner of humanity stood behind the refugees. The invading empire underestimated more than human strength. They underestimated humanity's heart. As the first wave of enemy ships faltered, humanity's strategy became clear. Not one refugee would be left behind, not one family separated, not one life sacrificed for fear. Commander Varric realized something profound. The humans had given his people not just safety, not just shelter, but belonging. And that belonging was stronger than any weapon. The invading fleets tried to retreat, but Earth's combined forces pressed forward, shielding civilians, engaging only to disable, never to annihilate. For humanity fought not for glory, but for the people they had chosen to protect. Across the galaxy, every species watched in astonishment. No one had ever seen loyalty so fierce. No one had seen compassion wielded as a weapon more powerful than lasers or bombs. The Empire realized too late they were not fighting refugees. They were fighting a united species, bound by trust, courage, and mutual respect. By the battle's end, the invaders had retreated. Humans and refugees together stood victorious, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Commander Varric looked at Earth's leaders, grateful, humbled. A survivor transformed by humanity's unthinkable choice. And as the stars quieted after the conflict, one truth echoed through every system. Humanity's strength was not in their fleets, nor in their weapons, it was in their compassion and the unbreakable bonds they forged. The enemy fleets had retreated. Their threat diminished, but the galaxy had watched everything. Every move, every choice, every act of unexpected mercy. 40,000 refugees walked among humans, not as outsiders, not as guests, but as neighbors, workers, friends, family. Earth was quiet now, Cities buzzed with life. Markets reopened, schools were full, children laughed in multiple languages. Songs from lost worlds mixed with human melodies. Life returned not because the war ended, but because humanity chose it. Commander Varek stood at a hill overlooking a city, watching families settle into their homes, watching children play together, seeing hope where once there had been only fear. The refugees had come expecting camps, fences, armed guards, rules, control. Instead, humanity had given them freedom, safety, and trust. Across the galaxy, diplomats, spies, and observers debated fiercely. Humans are reckless, some said. They cannot protect their own people, said others. Yet the undeniable truth was there. Humanity had done the unthinkable, and it had worked. Former soldiers from destroyed worlds trained alongside human defenders. Engineers rebuilt stations and ships together. Doctors and scientists collaborated freely. Knowledge was shared, not hoarded. The refugees no longer feared the past. The war that had once driven them from their homes no longer defined them. They were citizens of Earth now, partners in survival, bound by shared experience and by choice. Galactic leaders took note. Other empires realized that strength did not only come from fleets, weapons, or fear. Humanity had shown a different kind of power. The power to turn victims into allies, the power to build loyalty through compassion, the power to change the hearts of those who had once known only suffering. Commander Varek smiled quietly. He had expected to arrive and be caged, controlled, ignored. Instead, he had found purpose, belonging, and a future for his people he never dared hope for. Human leaders addressed the galaxy through a transmission, not with threats, not with demands, but with a simple truth. Strength is not in what we can destroy. Strength is in what we protect. The message spread faster than any fleet could travel, reaching worlds that had long thought power meant fear, challenging every empire that ruled by coercion. 40,000 refugees had arrived expecting camps, but humanity had given them a future, and in doing so, they had changed the galaxy forever. The stars remembered. Other species remembered. And all knew one thing. To face humanity was not merely to face weapons, but to face a force built on hope, loyalty, and the unthinkable choice to be kind, and that kind of strength could never be destroyed.